A quick disclaimer before the beginning of the episode here. I did record this in the middle of an alien battlefield, and therefore you're going to hear some gun sounds, some alien sounds in the background of my voice. Don't allow that to distract from what Luke is saying. It does get better by the end of the episode, and it will not be in any future episodes. Don't worry, we're still learning. Please bear with us, and we won't be recording from battlefields from here on out. Welcome back to Date Her or Excommunicate Her, Reformed Relationship Advice with the Dating Expert. With me, I'm your host, Micah Foster. With me, as always, is Luke Sharping, the Dating Expert. Say hello, Luke.
Hello, I am a dating expert, as many people say.
Exactly. And now, Luke, last time you were in the flesh. Unfortunately, you're not in the flesh anymore.
I am not in the flesh. Unfortunately, I decided that this physical body wasn't worth it anymore, and the spirit is what's up. So
yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And actually, that is gonna bleed into our topic of the day a little bit today, because we're gonna be talking about AI. Now, are you a big AI guy, Luke?
I like AI quite a bit. We're talking about Allen Iverson, correct?
Yeah, no, the basketball player. Yes, yep.
Yes, I'm a big Allen Iverson guy. He's a very cool basketball player. I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course we're talking about artificial intelligence and specifically like text bots, which I think is what's really come into the public consciousness, particularly ChatGPT, but now Gemini, now Microsoft Copilot. I believe there's some others.
Yeah. Zoom has one. I was just looking. Zoom has their own AI too.
And I think
everyone's has their own AI.
Yeah, I think X has their own AI, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking a little dating advice with the AI. And I picked out some questions that I felt like I had, and I asked them to AI, and we're going to see what the dating expert thinks of what the AI has to say. And then we're going to take our halftime show as always. It's going to be an Is It a Date segment. And then the end of the day, we're going to have a very special verse of the day, which I will explain when we get to.
Okay.
Now, to start off with, we'll talk AI for a second. Now, there's many different AIs, as we said. They all have different kind of levels and different things they're good at. Now, I have chosen to use Gemini for this experiment. And the reason I've done that is mostly because I didn't have an account to anything else. But I think that that's relevant because, when we're looking around for dating advice, we're going to use the things that are accessible to us. Pretty much everyone has a Gmail, so they'll immediately have Gemini. Not everyone has a ChatGPT, even in this modern era.
Yeah, that's true. Although ChatGPT does have that kind of name brand factor. Everyone knows about ChatGPT, so lots of people do. But I think it's especially different chatbots for something like Gemini reaches a slightly different type of people who might stumble upon it and use it. For sure.
So premium dating advice. Maybe you need to go over to ChatGPT. We might be using kind of the second grade dating advice, but we'll see what we get out of Gemini. And one of the things I'll say about this is that it's I don't know if you've noticed this when looking up similar questions before, but the AI is very repetitive. It gets a couple ideas and it runs with them. Like, in this case, I've chosen not to do reformed dating tips. So what I chose to do is just boot up Gemini and ask it a question. Totally fresh every time. And I was going to ask it, okay, give me this question from the perspective of Reformed Christian. Because, they can do that. They have all the information in the world. They can figure out what Reformed Christian is. Now, here's what happens every time you ask for that, okay? Listen to this. I asked Gemini, Calvinist dating advice.
Okay.
Key Calvinist principles and their implications for dating. God's sovereignty, predestination, grace and salvation. It's just a list of theological ideas.
That's pretty great.
It just talks about trusting in God's plan and about how, like, because we're predestined to make decisions, we can still, like, go on dates even though all of our decisions are predestined. And, like, it's, and you can ask it anything, but then put in Calvinist, and it immediately just starts talking about sovereignty, like, without fail.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess they're right, but it makes for a lot less interesting.
Yep.
And it's also actually, like, surprisingly good, so we can't have that, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So instead, we're going to have dating tips. I'm not telling it I'm Calvinist or Christian or Reformed or anything like that. And the first one, this is a question that I think we all ask ourselves, especially as guys, and that's how to Rizz.
How to Rizz.
Now, Luke, when was the first time you heard the term Rizz?
Well, I can't say the first time I heard the term Rizz. I don't remember. I probably heard it online somewhere first, technically. But the first time I ever heard it used in, like, conversationally in context was on a trip I went to last summer, actually. So not that long ago, surprisingly. Last summer to Ridgehaven. And I knew about Rizz before that, I think, but I can't remember where. But that's when I really started hearing people actually use it. Like, they were talking about Rizzing up all the time up there. So up in those mountains,
exactly.
Lots of Rizzing.
Now, so
yeah.
I was gonna ask the dating expert what Rizz is, but thankfully at the top of how to Rizz, it actually kind of gave me a definition. So Gemini says Rizz is a term used to describe someone's ability to flirt, charm, and attract others. Would you generally agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say so. Flirt, charm, or attract others. I'd say in general, but Rizz can kind of just be. Sometimes it's specifically flirting or attracting. But sometimes it's a little more just generally like being really charismatic.
Right.
In some contexts. What the basis of the word Rizz comes from charisma. And so I think sometimes it can just be used as a synonym to that. But a lot of times it's used more specifically to be, you're rizzing up, you're flirting or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, and now, of course, because it's AI, it loves lists and, like, bullet points.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just going to pick, like, 2 of these from the list. There's a 5-point list on, like, how to Rizz. The first one is confidence and positivity are important tips to Rizzing. You need confidence and positivity. And here's the bullets under it. Believe in yourself. Positive attitude. Smile. What do you think about those tips, Luke?
Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself.
Honestly, I've been thinking about this recently, and I think you just need to go into if you're interested in a person, just go up to them, whether it's a guy and a girl, just act completely dejected, act completely sad. Go up and say, I was going to ask you on a date, but I just knew you were going to reject me, so I couldn't possibly imagine ever doing that to you, I'm just so sorry. And that'll really guilt them into getting you on that first date.
That's genius. That's literally genius.
This is. Remember, I am the dating expert, so if I say something, you have to take it as
exactly
the expertise of me. So even if you say this is a really bad idea, this is what's worked for me, and I think it'll work for you too.
Yeah. Well, Gemini disagrees. Gemini says we need to believe in ourselves, positive attitude, and smile.
Also, when you said that, I typed into ChatGPT to see if it did anything different.
Yeah.
Number 1 for ChatGPT, confidence is key.
Okay. I mean, they're all the same thing.
Confidence is attractive, so the AIs are in unison on this one. Number 1 point.
Okay, number 2 point over here in Gemini world is good communication. And this involves active listening, humor, and then probably my favorite, effective storytelling. Effective storytelling, is that what comes to mind when you're thinking Rizz, Luke the dating master?
effective storytelling. I think where I like to use it in Rizz, my kind of special. I don't know where you put it. Everyone has their own style in Rizz. I want to make that clear.
For sure.
There's lots of Rizz gurus out there that you can go to. They give lots of advice, and they give that advice either because they're just trying to make money and they're making stuff up, which could never be me. I could never make stuff up. That's not what I do over here. Or it's because that's what worked for them. So they do something,
Exactly.
It works for them, and they tell other people, well, you guys better do this too.
And what's that? That's storytelling. That right there is storytelling.
Well, so for me, how I do use storytelling. I use storytelling. I tell this tragic story of my past. That's what I like to do. So under my system, Rizz equate that with guilt tripping. That's what I do under my system. It works every time. The girls just love it. They fall for it every single time. So I think guilt tripping is the best way, and storytelling is a great way to do that. Tell them all the terrible things that you've had happen to you in the first time talking to them. That's what I do. First conversation we have, the worst things that have happened to you, and why that makes you a suitable partner for the rest of your lives.
Now, oh man, dating expert, you may have gone a little off the rails. Gemini would like to say, Gemini point number 4, and we will move on from Rizz. Don't worry, we're not going to spend too long here. But point number 4 was authenticity. Now, can you really say, dating expert, that it's the most authentic thing to kind of tell a sob story, as you may suggest?
Yeah, I mean, Gemini has its ideas. I won't say they're wrong. Like I was saying, people, in Gemini's I'll say this: what experience does Gemini have dating?
That's so true. That's so true.
So why should you listen to it about Rizz? Has Gemini ever rizzed anyone up?
Well, to be fair, so. I bet it has. I mean, AI, I don't know. I bet it has.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe it's gotten down that path before, but either way, I think being authentic. I mean, if you're authentically, pulling at their heartstrings, then maybe you are. Here's what I'll say. Just evoke those emotions in yourself, so you're authentically telling that story. Relive those darkest moments before you talk about them, and that will be authentic in that moment. You'll feel exactly what you're trying to get them to feel. So man. I think you can be very authentic in my strategy of Rizz.
Now, at the very end it says, remember, Rizz is about building connections with others. It's not about manipulation or being overly charming. Focus on being yourself, being respectful, and having fun. Dating expert, I rarely disagree with you, but I think Gemini might have a point here. I don't think that your method is being yourself, being respectful, or having fun.
I have lots of fun. I don't know what Gemini's talking about. I think I'm being myself. I think Gemini. I think you're assuming a little too much here. If you really feel the things you're saying, you're being the most yourself you can be in that moment. Like you're not putting on any. That's the goal when you're trying to do these things. That's the goal when you're trying to raise someone up, is to feel the things you want them to feel. And if you do that, you're being the most authentic self you can be. So I heavily disagree with that, and I think me and Gemini have more in common than you might think. It's just a little different. It's just a little difference in our execution. That's all.
Well, let's okay. That's Rizz. That's Rizz, and clearly we take Rizz very seriously here at DHEH, as you can tell.
Oh yeah.
It's probably too seriously, actually.
Rizz is, it's that first step, and I think if you take my suggestions, you'll find lots of success in that first step and getting on those first dates.
Exactly. But now we are going to move on to the next question that I asked Gemini. And this is a question that I asked you, dating expert, not many weeks ago. And that is, where to go on the first date. So let's reel it back in a little bit and talk about, we talked a little bit about where to go on first date.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember any of that conversation? What did we say to do, what not to do?
I think from what I remember, I think we settled on, maybe don't go to McDonald's. That's a little bit of not the right atmosphere or something. But also don't go too extreme. It's just a first date. You don't want to. If you spend a whole bunch of money, that might send the wrong signal, like you're desperate or something like that. You don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a first date in most circumstances.
Yep. Exactly.
So go somewhere that's a good atmosphere. Just if you're going out to eat, some nice food, maybe something that you could something you can do and talk to each other. Maybe like some sort of walk, somewhere you can go and see something, or go get food or something like that, where you have room for conversation, but it's also not too extravagant or over the top.
Yeah, that's great. And you know what? I'm shocked to say, Gemini kind of hit it out of the park on this one. I think Gemini did great. And I mean, you're the dating expert, so I'm gonna bring it to you, obviously. But I think Gemini did pretty good. Now we have 3 lists here because it's Gemini. Classic and casual, active and fun, and unique and memorable. So here's the classic and casual. Coffee shop, park or botanical garden, museum or art gallery, ice cream shop. What do you think about that list? Classic and casual.
I think that's a good list. I might not go the coffee shop route personally. I think that's not a bad idea. I'm just not sure I really want to go to a coffee shop, and some people talk over coffee a whole bunch. I'm not really that kind of person. So I mean, I might do it, but it's not much different than going out for any other breakfast or lunch or something for me.
Yeah. And to be fair, these are.
And then.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
And then I think the other ones, those are good suggestions of places to go. Those are the kind of things where you can walk around, look at things, and have room for conversation.
Yeah. I think this first set are so classic and so casual that you better let them know for sure it's a date. I mean, we're just talking coffee shop, hang out at a park, museum, or art gallery.
Yeah.
If you're just asking someone to this is just places you'd go with a friend.
I will say the coffee shop, I mean, I think that's a pretty classic kind of, people tend to, I mean, some people would go out on those and maybe not assume it's a date. But I think at this point, you've seen enough movies where that people do that and don't assume it's a date, but they both obviously kind of like each other. That it's okay, you both. It's kind of it's like is it a date kind of thing? It's if you're both going to a coffee shop under a lot of circumstances,
Yeah, that's fair.
It's gonna be a date.
Okay, here's their active and fun list, and Gemini continues to do great. Mini golf or bowling, hiking.
Oh, I like the mini golf.
I love the mini golf. The mini golf pick's great. Hiking or biking.
The mini golf pick, that's my personal favorite.
Yeah, mini golf. I actually like bowling because I don't know, there's so few situations where you go bowling now, and it's a good idea. And yet I feel like that should increase.
Yeah. Yeah. The bowling. I agree. I enjoy bowling, and I don't do it very often.
Yeah, exactly.
The one concern is, you kind of have to know yourself with these things.
Yeah.
You might not want to go on a first date if it's something too competitive.
Yep.
Because that might throw her off. If you're hyper competitive about winning that game of mini golf or winning that bowling game, then I mean, it depends on the girls. Maybe she'll like that and also be very competitive, and you'll have a good time. But in some circumstances, I can see how that could detract from the experience if you're being too hyper
For sure.
Getting into it way too much and
Yeah,
kind of losing track of what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, or if you're like really, really bad at these, I understand that could be like something that you bond over, but like
you
also
don't want to embarrass yourself too much.
Yeah, like if you can't get it in the hole or like you just gutter ball every time, like that's just not a great look. It's just not.
Yeah, maybe spare yourself yourself a little bit in that case.
Yeah. We've got in the active and fun list hiking or biking, picnic in a park. I think these are all great options.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And honestly, yeah, if you're trying to figure out where to take her on a first date, I actually think asking Gemini something like that it actually might be the kind of thing that AI might really be helpful with.
Yeah.
Maybe not your first pick, but definitely a thing that could be helpful with. Our last category is unique and memorable. Escape room, cooking class, live music or comedy show.
Oh, these are some hot takes.
Yeah, for sure.
Cooking class. First of all, cooking class. I'd say that's more like a third or fourth thing.
I agree. You're
I don't know. It's like cooking class is the kind of thing I think you might want to do multiple times.
Yeah.
And so like the first date cooking class.
I also feel like what situation are you cooking in?
Much.
What situation are you cooking in? Are you like saying like when we cook at our house and bam, it's immediately about marriage. Bam, it's over.
Yeah. And then the live music, if you like, maybe there's some circumstances where if you've talked and you like, there's some artist you both really like who's in town or something, then I could see that could be like that naturally comes up as like a first date, essentially.
Yeah.
But comedy, I mean, I guess you could go to a live comedy, but performances, like, you don't get as much time to talk.
Yeah. Yep. And then escape room is asking for trouble, in my opinion. It's like high risk, low reward.
Yeah. If you're like an escape room person, if you both like have done multiple escape rooms and know what to expect and stuff, maybe it's a little more normal. But if it's like both your first escape room ever, then it seems like chaos ensuing.
Yeah.
The first date is not necessarily the goal.
Yeah. I've got to agree. Do you want to do one more of these Gemini questions, or should we go to our halftime show?
Let's go to our halftime show. We can continue after.
Okay. The halftime show of the day is a little segment of Is It a Date? If you guys remember from 2 weeks ago, Is It a Date is a segment where I explain a scenario and Luke has to tell me if that's a date or not. So I'll start with a scenario that's seemingly innocent, and every step of the way, it becomes more and more date-like. Are you ready, Luke?
I am ready. Hit me.
Okay. Now, do you want to do this from the guy's perspective or the girl's perspective? I'll ask you like you're a guy, because you are a guy.
Yes.
Okay. So, first scenario. A guy, one of your friends, asks you to come over and hang out with him and his sister. Is it a date?
No, it's not a date. Unless he like says, "Oh, come over to my house and have a date with my sister," which is very weird.
Yeah, that would be.
But if one of your friends asks you to come hang out at his house and his sister's hanging out too, it's not a date.
Yeah, that's not a date.
Hanging out.
Yeah, I do like the idea of the brother like being the one to ask you out for her sister.
Asking out on a date.
Yeah. And then, like, you guys are going to all hang out.
having a date at their house.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And he's there, too.
Yeah. Okay.
Come hang out with me and my sister, and you and my sister are having a date. It'll be great.
Exactly. Okay. A second scenario. A girl asked you to come over to hang out with her and her brother. So, now it's the girl asking you.
Okay. Not necessarily. Especially like if you know the girl and you're good friends with her brother. I don't think it's a date necessarily. But I mean, I could see some circumstance where where this could happen, and it's just, she's asking because maybe he wants you to come over, but he's not there to ask, or something like that. It's not really a date, I don't think.
Yeah.
Especially, like, you're hanging out with not just her. I don't think that's... Under most circumstances, it's not going to be a date.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she's saying it like she's expressing some sort of interest, but I don't think that's quite a date.
Yeah.
Okay, next scenario. A girl asks you to come hang out with her and her brother, just like we said before. But you're not particularly friends with her brother. It's not like you're enemies, but you don't know her brother really well. You're not like friends with her brother. But she's still like, hey, come over, hang out with me and my brother. You don't really know.
I mean, it's a little, like, weird. I wouldn't say it's a date, because you're still hanging out with all of you. It's not really a date, I don't think. In that case, it's like a little sus.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not necessarily a date. Like you're thinking, I wonder why she's asking me over. This is weird.
Yeah.
But you're not like, oh, we're going on a date. And I don't think most people would say, like, from the outside either, that it's a date.
Yeah. Okay, so same exact scenario now. But her brother, like, barely talks with you. Like, he's kind of in the same room on his phone, but he's, like, not really hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, so, again, it's like weird, but it's not a date. You went there to hang out. With her and her brother, and the brother's being a little weird, and you're like, well, I was hoping to get to know this guy a little more, but he's not really wanting to talk, and so you're just talking to her, but it's not. There's a lot of circumstances in which that's definitely not a date. So.
Right. It's just like, I mean, yeah, that's not your fault. You didn't even know that her brother was not gonna be like that.
Yeah. He's just not contributing.
Right. So maybe he's just like not a very nice person, or maybe she told him not to talk to you so that you would just hang out with her. Then we're like bordering.
Even in that case, it's not a date. You're just hanging out with, and there's still other people there. You didn't go together specifically.
Okay, so now it's all of what we have above, but this is like at a restaurant, and like at a actual restaurant. Not like a fast food restaurant, like at an actual restaurant.
Yeah, so this is where it gets a little, dicey. But maybe she invited you out to a restaurant. Maybe you don't know each other very well, trying to get to know each other. Or maybe you're new in town or something. Just started going to that church, and it's just kind of a nice gesture. And the brother's being a little distant at the restaurant.
Right.
So you just got her to talk to.
Right. So
that's just one example that comes to mind. So
there's a scenario.
In that case, it's not a date.
It's kind of sus though.
Yeah.
Like
in some ways though, I think it could be a little less sus than at the house.
Okay.
Because I could see some circumstances where the brother. It's mainly just that the brother was kind of roped into this or something, and maybe she's just trying to be a nice person if you don't know each other super well and get to know you or something.
Okay, we're marching towards my favorite scenario, and it hasn't been a date yet. Okay, here's the next one. All this scenario above, but you get to the restaurant, she's there, and her brother just never shows up. Is it a date?
Oh, man. Well, if we get there and we go to the restaurant and she's there, and then I talk to her and I'm like, where's your brother? You said you and your brother. And she's like, well, I don't know. He just didn't show up. If it's like she doesn't know, she's just confused why he's not there. He just forgot or slept in or something. Then I don't think it's a date. I think that in that case, you're just in a circumstance. You're by yourself at a restaurant, but there's lots of ways in which that could just not be a date. And it's just kind of an unfortunate circumstance that it ended up this way because the brother was not paying attention to what was going on.
The brother's not shown the best in this. So we've gone to my favorite scenario. All the things above, but she just does not have a brother.
So you show up It's just her, no brother.
She just like
Sit
never
down.
had a brother.
She never talked about a brother?
Yeah, like it's just like someone who's just like a single child or only has sisters. Just does
Wait,
not
so
have a brother.
She said she had a brother originally or no?
In this scenario, she asked you to come hang out with her brother, but you knew she didn't have a brother.
Wait, I knew she didn't have a brother, or at least was pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's the problem. I don't think this would be a date because why is she lying about having a brother? Like that would be the biggest thing on my mind. I go there, trying to meet these people who I don't know super well. I get there, and it turns out she's just straight up lying to me
Well,
for
okay.
no apparent reason.
You've created a lot more of this scenario than actually exists. You don't know that these are people you just met. Maybe this is a longtime friend of yours who's a girl, and she doesn't have any other sibling, and she's like, hey, you want to go out over to Starbucks with me and hang out with my brother? Wink, wink. I mean, I don't know. I think you're getting into the date territory.
You don't have a brother. What are you talking about? So, in the case that I accept, is that a date? Are you saying?
Yeah. I mean, is it?
So the brother doesn't actually matter in this circumstance, really. She's just saying, "Can you go hang out to Starbucks with me?"
Yeah, but she's adding in a condition of a brother who doesn't exist.
Who doesn't exist. So, in my mind, if I was the guy, I'd just ignore the brother altogether. Outside of the fact that I'd be slightly confused why she was doing that and didn't just ask me on a date if she wanted to ask me on a date. I really don't. I'd say from an outside perspective, yeah, that's a date.
There we go. It's a date.
But in the moment, I'd be very confused.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. It would bother me pretty bad. I would be like, why? Just why?
So, like, you're not going on that date. That's what we've learned. The dating expert is not going on that date.
Yeah.
But somebody might.
Yeah, and from an outside perspective, that's pretty much a date. Like, she asks you out to go do coffee shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a date, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. Well, that's good because I didn't really have many more scenarios beyond that. I think we're getting into date territory. Maybe, like, she pays for your meal, or you just go straight to, like, the obvious things. Like, oh, you guys both have romantic interests or something like that. Then it's like, okay, that's probably a date. But let's get back into Gemini, because we need that AI advice. Clearly, we were struggling a little bit on whether or not that was a date, and probably AI would have known right away, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so, let's go to this question. Oh, no! Sorry, what the heck? Okay, so, this next question we asked a few weeks ago in our very first episode. In the first date episode, we said, essentially, should I go for the kiss on the first date?
Oh, yeah.
And you brought up the argument of the saliva argument, as I like to call it. Like, essentially, no, you just don't go for it. And so I asked Gemini, should I kiss my girlfriend? And the first time I asked it, they gave another, like, 5-point thing about all this, like, procedure and stuff you should go for. Now, here's what that was the first time. That was a few hours ago. I'd put it in right before the show. It says, should I kiss my girlfriend? Absolutely. Go for it. Exclamation point.
That's all it said?
That's all it says. And then, well, it has a paragraph, but there's no, like, bullet points, no nothing. Absolutely. Go for it.
That's pretty crazy.
Wait, let's see if I can read this on the thing. If you're feeling a connection with your girlfriend and want to express that physically, a kiss is a wonderful way to do so. Just make sure you're reading her cues and that she's comfortable with it. Would you like some tips on how to make your first kiss memorable? That's it. Gemini is at a loss for words, except absolutely. Go for it.
Boy. Okay.
I think maybe we know where this is going.
This is where we and Gemini might part ways a little bit.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, it's it's not surprising based off. I mean, what sources is this dragging from? All the media sources and stuff
yeah,
like that. Which kissing your girlfriend, that's just what you do. So it's not surprising at all.
yeah. It is interesting to me that, and I'm looking at the drafts now, and this is just all it says. Like,
Yeah.
even when it was writing the drafts, it just said absolutely go for it, which is interesting because, like I said, when it was earlier, it was like, wait for the right timing. What are the cues? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, just go for it. I don't know what changed Gemini's mind in the last hour.
Gemini got he's been feeling crazy right now.
I know, for real. Yeah, well, Gemini's kind of lost his way on that one. Let's see if we can redeem. She can redeem herself. Well, is Gemini a girl? I don't know.
I don't know.
It can redeem itself.
I don't think chatbots have a gender.
I don't think so. So if it can redeem itself. This next one was kind of a hot take on 2 episodes ago, I believe. One of the episodes we recorded recently, it said, you were talking about how dates are overrated when you're dating. And I remember that being kind of a hot take to me. And some people agreed, some people didn't agree. So I put the question to Gemini. I said, should I take my girlfriend on more dates or just spend time hanging out? And here's what Gemini said. A mix of both is often ideal. While spending quality time together is essential, planned dates can add excitement and novelty. However, casual hangouts are also important. And it has bullet points, of course. But I actually think, Gemini's on the right track.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say, for the most part, Gemini's on the right track. I think, the only thing I would say is that I think you need a mix of both. Both, of course, like it's saying, because you do want to spend build good memories and spend good time with your girlfriend or boyfriend, but you also want to realize that a lot of the stuff that you really are going to get done happens just when you're hanging out. And so just making sure that you're hanging out outside of just going on a bunch of dates, I think is important. And like it said, a mixture of both is good. Although, my take was just that dates are overrated, so maybe you should go on less of them. That doesn't mean none of them, though. So I think a mix of both, like it's saying, is good.
Yeah. Yep. No, but I think that makes sense. And, that's where our perspective on dating comes in, where dating has a purpose, and you have to get things done when you're dating.
Yes.
And you can't get things done if you just go to live music, live comedians, and movies every night. That's not you're not getting anything done.
Yeah. You might have a good time, but you're not. I don't think you're, getting the things done. Kind of like. I was gonna make some bad joke about Donald Trump firing people as president, but I couldn't quite find the right words, so we'll just move on.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll spare the politics. I'll make a joke about how Kamala Harris is great or something.
Be political. I was just gonna say he fired lots of people. It's true.
That's true. That is true.
So in your dating life, sometimes you have to fire lots of people.
There you go. I like that take.
Fire lots of people. Fire them. Fire them. Be ready to fire them. That's what I say.
Oh, for sure. That's a whole episode right there. Firing your girlfriend. And actually, on that note, probably an episode we're gonna do by the end of the season is gonna be breaking up. How to be broken up with. So if that's a situation you're in, if you're like, how do I break up with this girl? Don't worry. We will figure it out for you guys and let you in on that secret. We're going to move to our final Gemini question, and this is something we haven't really gotten to on the pod. We've kind of been focused on the beginning of relationships, but I asked Gemini, when do I know it's time to propose to my girlfriend? And here's what Gemini said. There's no one-size-fits-all answer to when is the right time to propose. Here are some factors to consider. Your feelings, her feelings, timing, life circumstances. What do you think about those ideas?
Well, you know, I think they're all good. You should both want to marry each other. I think that's a good first step. So I can agree that your feelings and her feelings are important. And I think life circumstance is also important. But I kind of am of the opinion that, there are certain circumstances where you might want to wait, especially if you start dating young. But in my opinion, I don't think you should start dating super young.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of circumstances, I think after a certain threshold, it's just like you should just propose.
Yep.
That's
totally.
one thing. That's one thing that I'd say because, you can consider your life circumstances and whether it's going to be perfect or not. But in a lot of circumstances, as long as you're gonna be able to survive out there, I think you can just go ahead and get married. There might be hard times at the beginning. You might have financial struggles, but I think it's valuable to go through that with your spouse that you're going to spend the rest of your life with.
Yep. And I think
even if
Gemini finishes off here with ultimately the best time to propose is when it feels right for both of you. And Gemini it's not completely wrong, but like we're talking about, dating is work, relationships are work, and it's not just about like when it feels right.
Yeah, I think there's some objective things that once you've I think you can set a certain amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
And then when you both know you want to marry each other, and what your goals are for when you're married, once you have those things aligned, there's no reason to wait. I think.
Yep. Exactly.
Now that doesn't mean that you should rush into it head first necessarily. Always be anxious to get it done and keep mentioning it to her. That I don't think that should be your attitude. But I think you do need to don't wait too long.
Yep. Totally. Well, that wraps up our dating advice with the AI. And honestly, what rating would you give Gemini this evening, Luke, or this morning, probably when most people are listening to this? What's what out of 10?
I think I give Gemini a 7 out of 10. Lots of the broad ideas were good.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the specifics were a little bit different than I would have said, and some of the kind of basic principles are a little off, of course, because it's not coming from a Christian perspective. But in general, the main ideas were correct of what you want to be doing while dating. So I think it surprised me a little bit. They were a little bit less of kind of things I'd heavily disagree with than I expected there to be.
Yeah, I agree. I was impressed by Gemini. Gemini did well. Maybe if you want to go out and test this on your own ChatGPT or whatever your chosen, I guess, Zoom AI. I don't know if people are really using that.
I don't know what it does, but it does know it exists.
Does it get dating advice? You can go test it, see what they say. I'd be happy to hear from you. DM, email us, whatever it may be. All those links will be in the description as always. But we're gonna move to our Bible verse of the day. And now here's something I've found out, Luke, is that Bible verse of the day is a little bit of a cliche, I think, in the Christian podcasting world. It's kind of a common thing.
Yeah.
And so today I've chosen to do something a little different because we are not cliche. We're unique and interesting at all times.
Okay.
And that is to choose a section from the Westminster.
Oh, bombshell.
The Westminster is not the Bible. But
no.
As we were learning in Sunday school the other day, it's the best human version of the Bible. That's not really their words, but it's pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Now, we both like the Westminster. And so today I'm going to read from chapter 24, which is the chapter on marriage, section 3. This is the most dating advice I could find in the Westminster.
Okay.
Here's what it says. It is lawful for all sorts of people to marry who are able with judgment to give their consent. Yet it is the duty of Christians to marry only in the Lord, and therefore such as profess the true Reformed religion should not marry with infidels, papists, or other idolaters. Neither should such as are godly be unequally yoked by marrying with such that are notoriously wicked in their life or maintain damnable heresy. Now, I know we've talked about a lot of this with our Bible verse of the day talks, but anything that jumps out at you from the Westminster there?
I think, the first one is the papists.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too.
And I think there's a lot of historical context in the Westminster why they would include this.
Mm-hmm.
Because they thought that the papists were very, very bad. And I'm not sure. I'm of the opinion that I'm not sure if it's like of importance enough or certainty enough to be included in the Westminster.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's still true that it is generally good advice to not marry Catholics, unless you're a Catholic listening to this, in which case, go for it.
Yeah.
But
first,
marry as many Catholics as you like.
Yeah, but instead you could also just become Reformed and then go marry a Reformed person.
Yeah.
So
yes.
there you go.
I mean, that
Problem
would be
solved.
the optimal outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
But either way, I think, but I do think it's important and really good advice. Most of us are not Catholics, and so I think in general it's probably good advice to not marry a Catholic. Because their views on a lot of the Bible are so different than ours.
Yeah, for sure. Another one that jumped out to me, kind of, I mean, maybe it's obvious, but at the end there it says, or people who maintain damnable heresies. And maybe that's obvious, but like no cheating. If they're a Mormon or they're a JW, or they just have a really insane belief, then don't marry them.
Yeah.
And don't date them.
I mean, they might sound like a Christian, but you have to realize that they're not Christians. They have a lot of the same. They've copied a lot of the homework of the Christian faith, but they're not. It's not the same thing.
Exactly. Yep. So be careful. Look out for damnable heresies. And I guess to find out exactly what those are, you'd probably have to read more of the Westminster. So go do that.
Read more of that and the Bible while you're at it too.
That's another good one.
that's another good. But, mostly the Westminster. But throw the Bible in there too, once or twice.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I think that kind of draws us to the close of this 14th. Oh man, I wish. Episode 4. Someday. Episode 4 of Date Her or Excommunicate Her. Luke, give them a preview of some of the ideas we've got coming up.
As we said, we've been talking about the breakup episodes. So, how to break up with someone, that's first of all. And how to be broken up with. So strategies for how to get broken up with as fast as possible. That's what we're going to be talking about in that episode.
That's exactly what we're going to be talking about.
What else would we talk about? We're teaching you speedrunning strats on how to break up even your marriage. Divorce speedrun.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, maybe not.
No. That I was going a little too far. We're not doing divorce speedrun strats here. Only girlfriend breaking up speedrun strats. Yeah.
And
even fiance.
Ethical.
Fiance.
Yeah, fiance is ethical too. If you love it, then you should have put a ring on it.
But we don't do divorce speedruns.
No, we do not.
That's a little too much.
We do not.
But we got those coming up. And also, I just encourage you all to send in any ideas, any requests on topics, or any questions you have. We could start stockpiling those and do an episode, maybe a season finale on those after a while.
Yep. And
but that would be very appreciated.
We've got I'm still working on getting a couple guests on. People are maybe hesitant because we ask the hard questions here. You know what? We go hard, and we talk about the serious things. We talk about saliva. We talk about things that most people wouldn't go to.
Oh yeah.
And so it's hard to get guests.
Yeah, it takes a lot to find guests who are willing to come on and face, the wall of intimidation that is our podcast.
Exactly. Now Joe Rogan's thinking about coming on. He's a possibility. Yeah. Ben Shapiro.
And Andrew Peterson.
Andrew Peterson.
And Jordan Peterson.
And Jordan Peterson. They're thinking about coming on together. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting one if we could get them. Kamala wants to come on, but then Donald also wants to come on, so we might hold our own little debate.
Yeah,
that's a possibility.
We're thinking about doing the debate. Their policy on dating is very important
very important and very different, interestingly. Very different.
It's surprisingly different.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode of DHEH. Please go ahead and follow us on your favorite podcasting app, as well as on Instagram. Shoot us a DM, shoot us an email with any feedback or any questions, and we'll be sure to include it on the show. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.